Hey guys, welcome back. This is Professor Roldan with Explorations in Math, Chapter 12.3. In this section, we're going to look at measures of central tendency, which is basically mean, median, mode, and mid-range. Most of this is going to be a review, but there are a few questions where we do calculate grade, average, and what do you need to make on the next test to get a B and things like that. What if you drop the lowest? So those are some important questions we're going to consider in this section, although most of this is going to be review. On top of that, we're going to talk about quartiles, which you may not have heard of, but that we did talk about in class. All right, let's get started. So 12.3, measures of central tendency. So basically this is just saying the tendency of data to move or to be accumulated towards the center. Okay? So we just basically say averages to kind of give us the simple version of that. Okay, so when we say average, we're just saying, hey, all right, there's a lot of numbers, but just give me a number that represents the data, okay? And we're just happy to use one number to represent all of them. Instead of looking at all the different data, it could be very it could just be very unmotivating to look at a lot of numbers. We just want to see one number and focus on that one number that represents all of them. So we have 4 types that we're going to look at. You can see them below. But basically, there are a few more, but we're going to just look at mean, median, mode, and mid-range. Okay? So, and each of these is calculated differently, and they can get different results for the same set of data. Okay, sometimes they are the same number, but sometimes they are not. So to put this in perspective, basically we have some numbers and they're gonna kind of accumulate towards the center. So we want one number that represents all of those pieces of data. Okay, so the first one is called the mean, and this is the most commonly used word for the average. But we have something called X bar. That looks like that. And the formula for that would be so this is how all students' grades are calculated. Is going to be the sum of all the x's divided by how many x's that you put in here, how many values. So for example, if you have 3 grades, so this right here means the sum. It's the capital letter of the Greek S, or what we call sigma. So the sum, you're going to add up the 3 grades that you have, and you're going to divide by the number of pieces of data. Okay. So that's basically the formula for average. I say grade average. What's my average in the class? Well, add up how many grades you have, add them all up, and then divide by how many grades that you just added up. Okay, so we'll look at some examples in a minute. So the median is going to be the middle value. Now it's not just the middle of any set of data, it has to be ranked data. Okay, so ranked means lowest to highest. And so if you have an odd amount of data, that's perfect. So if you have an odd amount of data, you're basically just going to look at it and circle it. If your data is even, that means you're not going to see the median. And basically you're going to have to find the average of the two middle values. Okay, so we'll take a look at that in a few moments here. Mode, of course, is the most frequently occurring. Okay, and then the mid-range is going to be the value halfway between the lowest, we call capital L, and the highest. And so the formula for that would be, lowest plus highest divided by 2. Okay. Now let's take a look at this set of data here, and it's already ranked. It's from lowest to highest. And so now we can start calculating these different words here that basically are going to one number that represents this set of data. So for the mean, we have x bar equals the sum of all the numbers. So we're just going to add these up. And then you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to divide by 10. Add those up, you get 74 divided by 10. Move the decimal over, it's going to be 7.4. So 7.4 is the number that represents these 10 values. These are representative because it's towards the center. All right, this is called the mean. Now the median, we're going to go ahead and rewrite this. And the median is going to be in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That basically spits our 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 on the left, 5 on the right. In the middle is right in between my two 6s. Well, it's the same number, so it has to be 6. But just to prove to you, okay, we're going to do the average of those two middle numbers. 6 plus 6 divided by 2, which is 12 divided by 2, and that's, of course, 6, like we said. Okay? Now, mode, most frequently occurring. So 6 occurs the most, and it actually occurs 3 times. Okay, and the mid-range is going to be lowest plus highest divided by 2. So it's going to be the lowest is 2 plus 16, divide that by 2. So 18 divided by 2 is going to be 9. Okay? So if we look at our 4 numbers here, so we have a 6, we have a 6, 7.4, and a 9. All of these are our measures of central tendency. These are the numbers that are towards the center of this data. Okay, so far 6 is winning because it occurred twice. Okay, so 6 and 7 are basically in the right range there. 9's a little bit to the right, and the reason why that one's off, as you can see here, so this one's kind of different from the other two, or not really that close. It's because of this number 16 is really high. Okay, and it pushed the center a little bit more towards the right when it comes to the mid-range. Okay, so those are some examples of mean, median, mode, and mid-range. All right, so we'll do some more examples of these 4 values towards the end, and we're going to go ahead and go to our discussion of quartiles, measures of position. Instead of only talking about the center, now we're going to look at measures of position. So the first topic is percentiles. What is meant by the following statement? If Andrew is 5 feet 7 inches tall, then he would be in the 10th percentile of the National Basketball League players, or NBA. So, as you can see here, this is hold on a second. So this right here is kind of short, or let's not put short, let's put below average. Okay, 5'7" is pretty short, below average for basketball players, especially NBA players. And so 10th percentile basically means one of two things. You can, depending on how you look at it. Okay, so in other words, if this is 0 to 100%, Andrew is way down here. Here's Andrew. 10th percentile, 10%. So basically what this is saying is that Andrew is taller than %, of NBA players. Okay, or we can say Andrew, no, we can say 90%, the other side, 90% of all NBA players are taller than Andrew. Okay, both of those are basically saying the same thing, which is Andrew is below average. Okay, he's really short for being in the NBA. Okay, so that's percentile. Here's another example. Elizabeth scored in the 85th percentile on her college entrance test. And all that's just saying is that she scored better than 85% of those who took the same test, okay? Okay, and again, you can focus on the other side of that, which is only, so how much did better than Elizabeth? Well, only 15% scored better. Okay. So you can look at it on either side. So what that means is Elizabeth is on the right side of the percentile. So she's over here. Okay. Now let's take a look at quartiles. Now quartiles comes from the word quarter. You can see it right there. Okay, which means like you have 4 quarters in a dollar. 4 quarters or 4 parts. Okay, so data is divided into 4 parts. First, second, third, fourth quartiles. All right. And so if you have, let's say if you have again 0 to 100%. So obviously the full set of data is going to be Q4. Okay? The fourth quartile. Because it contains all 100% of the data. But right in the middle, that would be Q2. The second quartile. All right, which basically represents 50% of the data. Now, if we split both of those, the left and the right side, then this is going to be 25%, and that's going to be Q1. Okay? And if I split the right side in half, this is my Q3. Okay? So 25% is that much, 50% would be that much. Okay, so this is a fourth, this is a half. The Q3 represents 75% or 3/4. Okay, and of course the whole thing is 100% or the fourth quartile. So we're just concerned in splitting our data into 3 parts. Okay, so here's the procedure. You want to rank the data, and you're going to find the median 3 times. You're going to find the median, the normal median, which is in the middle, second quartile, and then you're going to find the median of each half, the left and the right, or the first and the upper, first and second, or lower and upper. Okay, so let's take a look at the data we were discussing on the previous page. So if you remember, we said that right down the middle out of 10 pieces of data, okay, that is going to be Q2. Okay, that's the first median. So Q2 is going to equal 6. We calculated this in the previous page. Okay, that's the median. Now Q1, we're going to split that in half. So if you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is an odd amount, so the median is just going to be the middle. So we just circle it. That's the middle number. Okay, so you do the median of the first half. That's going to be 4. And then the median of the second half, as you can see, also has 5 data pieces. So we're going to look at the middle, and that's going to be our Q3. Okay, and that's how you find the quartiles of sets of data. Okay, let's take a look at some homework questions from the textbook that you are welcome to practice here. Page 753. There's a bunch of different problems you can try. So let's take a look at our first one. And the first one's going to be number 31. Number 31 talks about an exam average. Well, that's the topic, sorry. So the topic is exam average, and it says Jeremy's mean average on 6 exams is 92. So it says his mean is 92. Okay. And that's for 6 exams. So the question is, what are the sum of his scores? So the sum of his scores, so remember, x bar equals the sum of all your x's divided by n, the number of exams. So this is saying that x bar, or the mean, is 92. The sum of the x's, we don't know, but we do know that he took 6 exams. So all this is saying is, okay, if you want to know how much his exams added up to, take your 6 and multiply it by your 92. So that's basically coming from multiplying 6 from both sides. So 92 times 6 is going to be 552. Okay. So the sum of all his test scores is 552. Okay, that is going to get him a nice little A. Okay, or A minus. So that's one application, is finding this part right here, the sum of your scores. So let's take a look at another application in regarding exam grades. So that would be number 37. So this one's grading methods. And it says that a mean average of 60 on 7 exams is needed to pass a course. Okay, so 60% average on 7 exams. Okay, that's passing 60% or 7 exams. Now, on the first 6 exams, Cheryl receives grades of 52. Oh, that's not good. 72, not bad. 80, pretty good. 65, 57, not so good. And a 69. Okay. Now, just by taking a look, only one of her scores was below the minimum of 60. Okay, so right now she's doing okay. Okay. So the first question is, what does Cheryl need to receive on her last exam? Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Her last exam, we don't know. Her 7th exam. So what grade must she receive on her last exam to pass the course? Well, it's not going to be that much because she has pretty good scores if her goal is to pass with a 60, which is not a great goal. That's the bare minimum. So basically, we want to sum up the scores. Okay, so we want this average to be a 60. And if you add up all her scores, you're going to get 395. But that last test, we don't know. So we're going to make that an X. Okay, so all these test scores adds up to 395. We don't know what she needs to make on her last exam, but we do know we're going to be divided by 7. Okay? So the sum of her test scores, okay, plus her last one, which we don't know. So we can't add this to this because we don't know it. That's the whole point. Okay? So how many points does she need to get to average a 60s? Well, you take your 60 average, multiply by the 7 exams. Okay, that'll cancel out the 7 over there. So basically, that's going to give us she needs 420 points to get a 60D, or actually D minus. So she's already earned 395. So how much more does she need to earn? Well, we just subtract 395 from both sides. And this is the algebraic way, just kind of using X, but this is not really necessary. So 420 minus 395, and that's going to be 25. So she can pretty much bomb the test and still pass. Okay? So, next question is, what if she's going to aim higher, say, I don't want to just pass. I want to get a C in the class. So we're going to make the average a C. Okay. Is it possible for Cheryl to get a C? If so, what grade must she receive on the 7th exam? So we know it's 395. Okay. We know we have 7 exams. We don't know that last exam. So basically what we're doing is 7 times 70. And that's going to give us the total amount of points all her test scores need to add up to. That's 490. Okay. Now, if you subtract the amount of points she has already earned on the 6 tests, then that's going to give you... That's going to give you a 95. Okay, so on that 7th test, if her goal is going to be a C, she has to make a 95A, which is very possible. Very possible. Just got to study really hard. So this you will be doing in class to calculate for your personal goals. Okay. Okay, another question would be if her lowest grade of the exams already taken is to be dropped, what grade must she receive on her last exam to pass the course? Okay, so she wants, so this time the goal is a 60 with lowest dropped. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drop. See, the lowest was that F, right? That 52. So we're going to subtract. So 395 minus our lowest. That's going to give us 343. Okay, so all right, so I want a D. I want to pass the class. I'm going to drop my lowest. So that's going to give me 343 points. What do I need to make on my next test, which that's a total of 7 test grades. So now if you multiply by the 7, you still get the same amount. You still need 420 points. Sorry, I'm supposed to... Okay. So we're not multiplying by 7 because we dropped the lowest. Sorry about that. Multiplying by 6 here. So that means we need less points to make a D. We need 360 points of all of our tests added up. So 343 so we're going to subtract the points that we have earned minus our goal, which is 360 points, and that's going to give us 17. So yeah, again, you can really bomb it now with just a 17. Okay, so you're going to be doing that in class. What happens if you drop your lowest? That's going to make your goal a lot easier to achieve. Okay, so the last question we're going to consider is we're going to go back to that C question. Okay, so going back to this one, 95 is a little tough. It's possible, but it's going to be really tough based on her past performance. Her highest is an 80. So she's got to score 15 points above her highest that she's ever done in the course. So that means she has to study like crazy. Okay, which is possible. People do it. But with the lowest test grade dropped, that is going to ease up her 95 down some, so she doesn't have to score that great. All right, so let's take a look at the same scenario, except we want a 70. So 70% is our goal. Lowest dropped. So that means we're still going to have this 343 here. We're just going to change the 60 to a 70. So we still need 490. Oops, I keep messing that up. 6 tests. So it's 420 points you need for a 70. She already has 343. How did I get that? Multiply both sides by 6. And then subtract the points that she already has to see how much she needs to make on her last test. So 420 minus 343, and that's going to be 77. So you see, with the grade dropped, the lowest grade dropped, she doesn't have to get an A. She can get a 77, which she's pretty much been getting. That's in her normal capacity. Okay. She wants to get a 77 or greater to be able to get a C in the class. Okay. All right. So those are some application questions about grades, and we'll do that again in class with your own grades. But I want to do one more, which is number 51, has to do with the quartiles. Okay, let's take a look at number 51, which is going to be our last example for 12.3. So 51 has some questions about these salaries. Okay, so we have some information. So these are salaries of construction company. Okay, so this is the mean. And here's the median. Here's the mode. Slightly different. That's sort of expected. But they're in the same general ballpark number. And then the first quartile, third quartile, and the 83rd percentile is all given as well. Okay? Now, application questions. What is the most common salary? Okay, the most common salary. So most common translates into what? Mean, median, or mode? Okay, so if you remember from the definitions, that would be mode. Okay, so mode is going to be 600. Okay. Now, what salary did half the employee's salary surpass? What salary did half the employee's salary surpass? So if you have this, half, or 50%, would be right here. So it's saying, what is that number that basically divides the data into the middle? So that is the second quartile, but that's not listed because that is the same as the median. So this is your second quartile right there. So the answer for B would be 610. Okay? This is the median. Now, the third question says, about what percent of employees' salaries surpassed 645. So we go back to our data and we see there's 645. 645 is in the third quartile. The third quartile, if you remember, that's 3/4 or 75%. Okay? So about what percent? So here's 100%. Here's 645. Whoops, I'm in the wrong one. So about what percent of employees' salaries surpassed 645? So 645, this side is 75%, this side is 25%. So the key word is surpassed, that would be the right side. Okay, 25%. Okay, about what percent of employees' salaries were less than 580? So if you go back, 580 is right here. That's the first quartile. That's basically the first 25%. Okay. Let's do 580. So 25% is here, 75% is here. So what percent of employees' salaries were less? That's, again, 25%. We're less than that 580 number. E, about what percent of employees surpassed, that's to the right, 685. 685, as you can see, is 83rd percentile. So 685 is 83%. So that means 80. So this side over here is going to be 17% to make the 100%. And the last question is, if the company has 100 employees, what is the total weekly salary of all employees? So the total has to do with this equation. Okay, where this right here is the total. So it's basically saying we need X bar, or the mean, which is 620 up there. Okay, what is the total if they have 100 employees? Okay, so again, all we have to do is multiply both sides by the denominator. So 620 is the median times 100 employees. That's 620 with 3 zeros, which is the total, or the sum. Okay, so those are some application questions for our study of mean, median, mode, and quartile and percentile. That kind of wraps it all up in one question. All right, let me know if you have any questions or issues, and you should be able to do 12.3 just fine. And we will get into 12.2 and 12.6 in another video. See you in the next one.